Long ago in the days of old, where adventurers were many and dangers were plenty, a traveler walked. For many days and nights he trekked across the lands. Growing weary and tired, he set off to find shelter. The sun was setting, and the traveler dreaded the long nights in the forest he found himself in. Soon a quarry came to be, empty and desolate, with only moss, vines, and a stream of water giving it life. For him to rest and survive, a bonfire was needed. And so, with his gear tucked away, the traveler ventured forth outside. Picking up wood, flint, and stones, the sun had nearly vanished by the time he returned. His heart pounded fiercely as he set to work, with the last of sunlight leaving and giving way for the night sky. Clink! Clink! The flint went. Sparks arose, yet it bore no flame. Clink! Clink! It went again. The dark had taken over now, until finally, clink! The bonfire was lit, and to the traveler's surprise, he was no longer alone. "Good evening to you. Might you an adventurer, perhaps?" the woman asked. Elegantly dressed she was, in garbs of crimson and black, long and luscious hair running down her back. She looked as though she were a noble, lost and barefoot in the woods. The traveler was taken aback by her sudden appearance. "Who are you? How did you get here?" he asked with fear in his heart. "I may ask you the same. What purpose do you find yourself here?" The traveler was suspicious of the woman's presence, but his fears would soon subside. Seeing her delicate frame and otherwise human attributes, he felt himself safe. "I am a traveler, I am. I came upon this quarry to rest. To leave at the earliest of daylight I aim to do," he surmised. The woman's face lit up with delight. "A traveler, you say? Of many trails and treks you've gone, and of many adventures you might have had." The traveler grew to blush. "I suppose most of what you had said is true, but my adventures I cannot tell thee so simply, dear miss," he lamented. "Oh? But what is a traveler would be without an adventure or two in his past?" "Of what reason must you be so hesitant?" the woman asked, tilting her head to the side. "If you care to hear my tale, that I ask of ye. For it is a long story with its own turns. Of due time it will take, I am afraid," the traveler had asked. The lips of the elegant woman curled into a smile. "Tell me, O traveler, of what is your story?" And so the traveler had recounted his past, of his humble beginnings in a small yet lively town, a family of modest wealth and equal opportunity for more, times of farming and fishing and gathering, moments of delight when new faces would appear entering their vicinity. Among these new faces lay a band of merchants, several of whom spoke to a young lad with a curious mind and a hard-working soul. They told him tales of adventure and stories of wonder, with every turn and spin giving joy to his heart. More delight came to be in the form of an offer. "Come with us and aid along in our work," told of the merchants. "In return, a life of adventure shall go to you." The young lad decided that it was time for him to choose for himself, and choose to be with them he had. Without much thought, he bid goodbye to his old life, to his friends, to his family, to everyone that wished him well. And true to their word, adventures were given. In mere days alone, he met countless warriors and fabled legends, people he only heard of from those that passed by his town. Monstrous beasts of all kinds were shown to him, both from afar and up close. A tiny chimera in a cage, a griffin soaring high above to the west, a gorgon unable to notice their sneaking across her domain. The merchants taught him many lessons along their journey, and as they sought more treasures afoot, he would learn the world itself, of where to go and where to be, of what to do and what to be afraid of. But alas, much to the young lad's love for his newfound party, he would be left alone to fend for himself. One day the merchants abandoned him, stolen of his goods to be kicked off from a traveling carriage. The young lad was alone now, and barely he had his bearings. The young lad traveled for many days and nights, to different towns and different places. He knew of where he was, and yet his knowledge served no luck. He would soon be called a traveler, one who barely scrapes by for teaching others of the things he learned. The many directions he held were useful to many, or at least according his own hubris they had been. Be it as it may, the traveler ventured on, wishing to bring more coin to his travel. All the while his love for adventures slowly began to wilt away. Yet wilt away it never will in his eyes, for even at that moment he still chooses to be a traveler. To wander the world for adventure and thrill. That is of my tale. Many hardships I faced and continue to do so. Yet my love for adventures not quite snuffed out, the traveler tells the woman. I dare not return to my hometown without much riches and experience, for I know I need not return. Triumphant I shall be, nay, victorious I will become. The woman clapped her hands and expressed her joyous thoughts. Bravo, O sir, for you are indeed a traveler with what ye have gone. And I see many misfortunes had befallen to ye, and 'tis admirable that you still go farther and farther. The traveler had let out a satisfying laugh. It is the life I chose, and continue to choose it, I will, he would exclaim. And what of you, dear miss? If I may be so bold, may I ask why a noble woman such as yourself can be seen in a quarry of this nature? The woman looked away. A noble such as I? Dear traveler, you name me with such a word, she would say, looking flustered. Apologies, then, dear miss, but I know not of many to be in such garbs as yours, the traveler admitted. Of what reason ye be, then, if I may ask once more? Me? Oh, nothing at all, the woman playfully remarked. I am here for a reason still, and for a traveler such as ye, the reason it is. The traveler grew puzzled. Me, you say? Or rather, of travelers such as that I am? The woman stared off to the woods ahead, the darkness that veiled its moor making it impossible to see. Yes, I came to thee, dear traveler, for I suppose ye not know of these parts. The traveler shook his head. Nay, I do not. Yet slowly I am learning and mapping it all, he would reply. Have ye met others in these parts, then? I suppose you have not heard of it after all, haven't you? She vaguely asked, ignoring the traveler's inquiry. Of what that may be, dear miss. She looked towards him once more, and simply she asked, Had ye not heard of the dragon that I am? Dragon? An old tale it is, she gleefully announced. The traveler grew puzzled once more. Ah, I see. But of what may that be relevant to? Perhaps take a listen, and maybe you will see. With a shift in her seat, the woman began. Long before I nor you, there came a drake, soon a drake of two. Her mind was hers and hers alone, yet her sins shall not be of her own. In the lands of yore there she be,
"Why? Why not set me free?" she says with lamenting remorse. Yet her cries were unheard by the opposing force. To her and her alone she pleads and cries, as the other soon takes another by surprise. Another weary soul, lost in his way, his life and death I shall come to play. Yes, this was the curse of the drink, of two minds and souls that left her awake. She is alone, yes, indeed she is alone. Yet her sins are not that of her own,
the woman concluded. To this the traveler felt no closer to an answer. A pretty poem, that is, dear miss. Yet I see not why bring this up at all.
Indeed, you have not heard of it, I see.
The traveler shook his head, and the woman began to laugh.
Perhaps it has been too long. Such a rhyme was given to me and of my kin, provided that those not of age, and those foolish enough to dare, fare better in caution, that of which within these very woods would be included.
I see that. The traveler began to wonder what their conversation had become. He realized now that the woman was warning him of the dangers of these woods, or rather, the entirety of that land. Still, many questions lingered in his mind in regards to the woman and her poem, yet the presence of a dragon in the piece came at the forefront of his curiosity. You mentioned a dragon. The very title itself tells of that as well, the traveler remarks. 'Tis not unlike that of an old wives' tale, a way for folks much like I to be wary of those that linger within areas as these. The dragon is of a danger, and yet I do wonder the reason of its title alone.
Oh? The woman asked. What makes you say that?
The poem tells the tale of a drake, yet it is told in the view of another, not of the drake itself. A misleading verse in regards to that of its name, that being the dragon that I am, the traveler inquired.
Aha! Quite the literate ye are, traveler. Have you heard of many a tale such as this? The woman asked.
In rhyme alone, many, yet not as mysterious, the traveler admitted.
I have not heard of thy cautious tale. Had there been many that knew of it?
Oh, that is a mystery on its own. Perhaps in a different time many knew of it. But if ye not know of it, how am I to know others are not of the same? The traveler grew confused once more, and every question and of every answer given seemed to yield no further future. The woman seemed to be young in her status and age, and yet she spoke of times that have come past. Mistaken was the traveler? Or had this fair lady been hiding her age well enough? More and more the intrigue grew, and of its wake came feelings of doubt, and worse still, fear. Even so, the traveler was curious. He heard tales of women in her stature being more danger than the most furious of beasts. Yet signs of such were not there, tales of calluses, bruises, nor scars of any kind. Magic, it could be, yet that too felt odd in the view of this woman. Only in the words that she spoke did the traveler feel weary, yet all the same, curious. That poem is a warning, I am to hear. Yet it feels incomplete in its structure, the traveler remarked.
That is because it is,
the woman simply stated. The traveler was perplexed. Had she been pulling his leg all this time? Well then, why leave it unfinished?
It is said that the latter half is not to be heard for those faint of heart, the woman replied.
The traveler grew frustrated. Enough of these vague statements of yours, woman. I feel as though you toy with my comprehension.
Do you wish to hear it then?
The woman offered.
But once more, are ye prepared for it? By all means, I wish to know. Doth you not insult me any more, I plea of thee, dearest maiden. Very well, the woman said with a laugh, and she began to ready her voice. Intrigued the traveler was, listening with content to the words the woman would bring him.
The drake's many cries and woes are not all unheard nor unfollowed. Some have been heard by I, for I know indeed, I know of her cry. 'Twas I whom laid here within her soul, tied together, mixed with a burning toll. And now she sees what I see to her dismay, as I lure, entertain, and torture in my stay. In this quarry and rubble that was once her home, much like her, I've taken it as my own, to bring forth more souls to thrive and thrash, to burn their bodies all to ash. The travelers that do and will arrive, those naive enough to rest and survive, know not of my cunning and dubious plan, for they will soon know the dragon that I am. Dearest traveler, now do you see how aloof and unwise you came to be? To visit this quarry, nay, this den of safety be a scam. For now you shall know the dragon that I am. The traveler felt beads of sweat go down his brow as a new, unwavering sense of danger had taken over. What an interesting latter half, I must say. The traveler knew not of the capabilities of this woman. Nay, he knew not of this woman at all, and only now had it dawned on him. Indeed, it is a wondrous little spin, she would remark, picking away at the undersides of her long painted fingernails. So, dear traveler, I ask of you once more, do you know of the dragon that I am? The traveler shivered with fear, knowing not what would happen if he chose to answer her question. You've traveled so far, seen many beasts. Surely you've heard of a drake or two? What did they look like, if I may ask? Would they have long tails full of scales and spikes? Thud! Right behind the woman, something large and wide full of gleaming scales came to be. Or perhaps their horns. They often are proud of the horns they bear. With a blink of an eye, the traveler saw the woman's horns, long and curved, looking as if both were always there. Heh, I suppose now you'd have to thank your party for leaving you. I doubt they have seen a drake before. The woman's two eyes drastically changed as they began to glow in the twinkling light of the fire between them. And I suppose I may thank thee, dearest traveler, for not only refusing to return to your hometown unburdened only with pride, but for coming here to my den, completely aloof of the dangers that lurk. The fire would be snuffed out, leaving only complete darkness in the quarry. The traveler would feel the drake's breath inches away from him as she began to whisper, "Now, you know the dragon that I am? In the days of old, where adventures were plenty and dangers were many, a drake is known to be, one with two souls within her, whilst many, many more are trapped within her domain. Her sins were not that of her own, as one soul wishes to take others for her own, to toy with them for eternity and more. Of those parts, travelers would lose their way, and in older days several warnings came to be. Of a noble woman as innocent and sweet to be, is of the drake with two souls, ruthless and merciless as can be.